Yo, 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 what's good, everybody? It's your dude B-Love, a.k.a. Bubs, the motherfucking guy, coming at y'all once again with another video, actually an audio video, that is. I want you to be able to get yourself comfortable, get relaxed, get you something to eat, something to drink, because we're going to have a very interesting conversation. I am very, very excited to share with you all an individual who is like an amazing person in my life. He's my spiritual teacher, but now it's also my spiritual brother and my best friend ever. I would like to introduce to all of you Davyon, a.k.a. Conscious motherfucking TV. What is going on?
I hope you paid your phone bill because I don't want you to end up like Kaya, but I'm doing real well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm a little tipsy and a little high, so y'all gonna have to bear with me a little bit. But other than that, I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent. I'm butt naked on the porch under my robe.
Amen. The way God intended it, then.
The way He intended.
So there's been a lot of things that's been going on recently within the past, I want to say maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, in reference to the whole MALIK YOBA situation and just the whole LGBTQIA community being under fire because with primarily trans women of color, but attached to that community, has been under fire because of MALIK YOBA, of course, with these recent interviews that he did. One with the Judge Joe Brown show, which we'll touch on very briefly, and then we're going to talk about the Root interview between MALIK YOBA and the interview from the Root. For those of you who do not understand what happened in reference to MALIK YOBA and Judge Joe Brown, apparently Judge Joe Brown invited MALIK YOBA onto the show to kind of give more of an understanding of where he stands, and it completely went the way that everybody thought it would go. It completely went left field. Exactly. You hear that sound, how annoying that shit was? That's exactly what the fuck it sounded like. But you guys already know my commentary on the whole situation. You guys can check out my video previously, and you can see what my thoughts are on that. So with that being said, I would love to open the floor up to my really good friend Davyon, a.k.a. ConsciouzTv. So what are your thoughts on the whole Judge Joe Brown, MALIK YOBA situation?
Judge Joe Brown is just old and miserable, and we're just waiting for him to die.
Amen. That's that on that. Case closed. Okay. So now let's jump onto this whole MALIK YOBA and the Root situation. I recently just saw a little bit of the clip, the last 8 minutes of it. Davyon was the one who actually watched the entire clip. So could you do us a favor and kind of set up the narrative for those of us who may have not seen the clip yet?
To make a long story short, there was an interviewee who interviewed MALIK YOBA, and they were having a conversation about what basically inspired MALIK YOBA to come forward about his trans attraction, and MALIK went into the story about the young man who committed suicide, who was also openly dating a trans woman. And at first, there was a lot of speculation about this young man committing suicide as a result of the cyber and street bullying that he was experiencing. And MALIK YOBA just kind of talked about his experience growing up young. He was in performance art school, so he was always around people who were different, non-binary, trans people, gay people. Obviously, we know that the arts world is filled with two-spirited, unique individuals because we're just naturally gifted and badasses. So, of course, that world is heavily populated with us. And basically, midway through the interview, the interviewee started asking MALIK YOBA questions about the allegations that came from two separate trans individuals who claimed that MALIK YOBA had sex with them while they were underage. I think one when they were 13 and another when they were, I want to say 6. Did I hear 6 correctly? Underage, nonetheless. Very, very, very underage. And MALIK YOBA, the tensions kept rising because the interviewee kept kind of exploring that, and MALIK YOBA, started confronting the interviewee and basically calling him out and saying, look, we pre-strained this interview yesterday. We had an understanding about the nature of this interview, the direction of this interview. I'm feeling set up. I'm feeling bamboozled and hoodwinked. And the interviewee was, I guess, scooting around that conversation in a way that kept agitating MALIK YOBA. He was insisting that led to Malik Yoba ultimately having an outburst, a very, very, very incredible Hulk outburst. I mean, everything happened aside.
Outburst, yeah.
Everything happened aside from fist fighting in the outburst. So now we're here.
I really commend Malik Yoba taking the time and opportunity to be able to use his platform to be able to bring awareness to a group of individuals within our community who I feel like, unfortunately, are at the bottom of the totem pole, you know, and they are the ones that are out here really doing a lot of the work, a lot of the stumbling of the pavement. Like you said, he shared about the individual who committed suicide, unfortunately. On the Judge Joe Brown show, he shared a story of a trans woman who was hog-tied and shot in the head and set on fire. But when we talk about these things that are affecting individuals in the African-American community, it kind of seems like we kind of push that to the side and we continue to focus more on this negative stereotype, you know what I mean, and him digging deeper about this whole thing. Now, I understand as far as publicity is concerned, in trying to protect your image and stuff like that. So, of course, I understand him having these pre-screened things as far as the questions and conversations, because it's like we continuously having this conversation and y'all want to keep focusing on these allegations. But what makes it horrible is the fact that because people already have this negative stereotype about the LGBTQ plus community anyway, that's like the one thing that they can harbor on to kind of be like, okay, we can harbor on this allegation. We can write this allegation on him that has not been proven to be, you know, true. It's still an allegation or whatever. But if we can hold on to this and continue to ride his back, eventually he'll break. And then if he'll break, that'll be +1 for us, because unfortunately this is what happens to individuals who are part of that sick community. You know, if we continue to break them down like this, this is what will happen. And like he said, this is his life. You know, he's lost endorsements. He's lost a lot of opportunities in reference to acting. I believe he was a part of some event or organization, if I'm not mistaken, and ended up losing his partnership in that. You know, he's taken a lot of L's for this, but he's taken the L's for a community that unfortunately has been given L's for a very, very long time. And I commend him for that. And I just feel really bad that he's going through this whole situation. And I don't believe that he's trying to redefine the term heterosexual. Not at all. If anything, he's just expounding upon it, you know, because of course we're ever learning species. We're always learning something new. So there's always going to be something that's going to help in reference to evolution of these definitions. There's no way trying to affect you or your life. You know, just because he's attracted to trans women does not mean it's going to affect your situation that you have going on. But, you know, of course, people want to place themselves in situations where they don't belong and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts?
I share a lot of the same sentiments. I think that there's a lot of weird things happening with this Malik Yoba situation that are really baffling and a little surprising to me. One of those things would be kind of how the queer community is kind of divided in terms of how they feel about Malik Yoba. You have, obviously, you represent the group that is supporting Malik Yoba in his allyship for our community, and then you have the other half of that party is feeling like this is coming off very disingenuous, and they don't know what that means and what they're feeling. And I think where some of this discomfort from and where some queer people are getting hung up on is I think that we aren't used to Black men being as articulate, clear, and confident and comfortable in speaking to these matters from a heteronormative aesthetic, because Malik Yoba represents the more hetero-presenting, I don't even know to call him queer or not because he's trans-attracted, but I'm just going to say sexually fluid, just for the sake of simplicity here. But he's hetero-presenting. He's masculine presenting. And I think that our community isn't used to seeing that. And I think that that scares some people and that bothers some people and that comes off as a little fake because, let's be honest, we're all confronting our own stereotypes about Black men, and Malik Yoba interrupts those stereotypes by being articulate, by being intelligent, by being well-spoken, and being courageous. And all of those qualities for a lot of queer people just seem mythological on black men. So I think that that's where some of the tension is. Now, what's fascinating to me is I looked under the comment section, and maybe it's just me, sometimes I wish I was stupid, so that, because I know stupidity is bliss, especially when the majority are just dumb as hell. Sometimes I just feel like, God, can I just see a little bit less and hear a little bit less and just think a little bit less, just so that I don't have to be the odd one out? But the comment section was littered with people saying all he had to do was deny the allegations and move on. Why did he get so upset? And then in the Judge Joe Brown podcast, Umar Johnson mashup, where they were speaking about the Malik Yoba incident, the female host played a excerpt from The Breakfast Club, and Charlamagne also was just like, why did Malik Yoba get so upset? He should have just answered the questions and moved along. And I'm like, were we all watching the same interview? Because Malik Yoba, I recall him distinctively looking that brother in his eyes and saying, I don't even know this woman. I've never met her. I don't know her. And I'm absolutely saying this did not happen. And so when everybody is like, he should have just answered the question to move on. Excuse me, he absolutely answered the question. So so now my issue is not even Malik. I don't have an issue with Malik Yoba, but my issue is the general public.
Yeah.
People want Malik Yoba to be wrong. They want him to be all these things that are being projected onto him, and what's really happening is Malik Yoba is atoning for the ignorances and the sins and the homophobia of the audience itself. Like, black people, just come out and say, look, Malik Yoba talking that weak shit, okay? Stop representing for trans people and gay people and weird people all together. This is not about Malik blowing up. This is not about whether he answered the question directly. All of these things are just opportunities for homophobes to latch on to. And as somebody who is an openly queer man, and I'm very androgynous and very forthcoming about the entirety of my identity and all of my intersections, being black, queer, androgynous, all these different things. I have been in situations growing up because I'll kill a nigga now, but growing up, I've been in situations where homophobes, and these are the less physical homophobes, these are more like the mind game homophobes, where they gaslight queer people and then act like it's not a big deal. You know, like, you get to bully and tease me and then say you're just playing, when I then am coming out of my shirt on your ass, and when I'm then coming out of my 40-inch ponytail on your ass, and then when I'm then coming out of the brass knuckles from out of the man purse on your ass, then all of a sudden you're just playing on being too sensitive. And so I feel like, the comment section is filled with a bunch of homophobes who are just like trying to scoot around the fact that you don't like this man because of what he's doing, because most of you believe in a gay agenda, and you believe that Malik Yoba is pushing that agenda, and he's helping that agenda along. And so, I don't know, the audience is just weird to me. Like, I think everybody's weird. I love what Malik Yoba is doing. I think even focusing upon whether he is trans, whether he's a trans, if he's ever been with a man, it's beside the point. I could care less what this nigga's sexuality is. It's clear that Malik Yoba took the time to listen to queer people saying, world, listen to us. Malik Yoba it's clear he's actually listened, which is why he's trying to be very specific and control the conversation to make sure that it's true to the desires and the needs and the wants and the pain of trans women and of queer people, but everybody wants to derail the conversation, including the VJs who bring him on, including the hosts who bring him on, and he can't stick to the script without all this other stuff that has nothing, and I completely understand, because if Malik Yoba, come on, we live in an age where Hollywood is, all of the stories of pedophilia are coming forward, out of the black church, out of the white church, out of Hollywood, R. Kelly, you got Harvey Weinstein, you have all of these things coming out. And so I can imagine being in Malik Yoba's shoes and saying, look, I never want, especially as a public figure, I don't want to ever go on an interview and have to talk to these matters and then have a side conversation and then have that same audience blame me for doing what they feel so many other people do, which is like, we never really deal with the trans thing. We never really deal with the black trans and gay thing. It always becomes about something else, and we never feel like we get our due diligence in these conversations, especially as black people. And I think it's important as black people for us to be having this conversation about trans identity, gender identity, sexuality, the LGBTQIA. And you said something else, and I'm going to say this last part and get the mic back to you. You said something about heterosexuality, and he's not trying to redefine heterosexuality. Look, at this point, I'm adding the H to the LGBTQIA acronym, and LGBTQIAH, okay? Because you motherfuckers are freaky and you're nasty and you're just as damn diverse and nasty and explicit and weird and non-binary and gender damn bending and flipping in your sexual practices as any goddamn body else. Oh yeah, I watch your porn, heterosexuals, and yes, I do go to the peg section. A lot of y'all like to put on the dildos and fuck your niggas in the ass, and a lot of your niggas like to be fucked in your ass by your woman, and then you want to be over here talking about acting like you something different from everybody else. Y'all fucking in the ass and enjoy anal sex. I know plenty of you women love to get plunged in your booty hole. And plenty of the men love to plunge you all in your booty hole, okay? I mean, you done pushed the big ass 13-pound baby out your cooch. Ain't nothing left available with elasticity but your damn anal cavity. And the porn section is riddled with all of y'all fetishes before we even get to the gay section. The heterosexual has 7 damn columns of heteronormative fetishes. So I am adding the H to the LGBTQIA acronym. Welcome to the family.
Pretty much,
back to you.
And pretty much, we might as well do that because, I mean, we can go back, not even go back. We can look and see about all these quote-unquote heterosexual prides, and it's heterosexual day where we just stand up and just be proud of us being heterosexual. It's kind of like it's a slap in the face of the LGBTQIA plus community, because what y'all want to do is y'all want to look at us and see. Now there are some people, yes, who dress kind of out there, whatever the case may be, but it's kind of like a big SU to the world, because it's like, okay, y'all saying that this is who we are, whatever. Okay, on this day we gonna show the fuck out and show y'all this shit. But we're going to be able to stand truthful and stand 10 toes down on our fucking truth and who we are. But now people want to have heterosexual pride, and I'm coming out as a heterosexual man, because it's like y'all don't want to take accountability for the shit that y'all have done. Because we have not fucked with y'all. Y'all fucked with us. Y'all fucked with us. But what's making y'all upset and what's pissing y'all off is the fact that now we have representation, and you're calling representation an agenda. Like it's a demonic ass agenda. Please, okay. So let's delve deeper into this shit. If I'm not mistaken, the black U.S. population is anywhere from maybe 11 to 13%, right? Then let's break it down to the LGBTQIA plus community as a whole. That's already a single-digit number within itself. Let's break that even down even smaller into the LGBTQIA plus community of color. You're dealing with anywhere between 1 to possibly 3%. So explain to me, how is it that 1 to 3% has so much power and influence over the majority? How does that fucking work? How does that work? It does not fucking work. It does not work. And then on top of that, why would if he was not trying to be the ally that he was, why would he put his image, put his career, all these other things under scrutiny? What is he gaining from this? He lost things. So explain to me, what did he gain from this? He took the opportunity to say, you know what? I'm going to be able to listen to these people. I'm going to have empathy, which a lot of y'all motherfuckers don't have, empathy for people and to walk in their shoes. I believe in the Root interview, he said something about, taking the time out to walk in their shoes, and I think the guy said, well, that's not real life.
Yeah, when he equated it to acting. But then he also brought it to real life by saying, when people call me a pedophile, I know what it's like to be a trans woman because I'm being identified as something that I know that I'm not.
Yes, you're not, exactly.
And and Malik has a point. I have a perspective of we're all unique, but ain't none of us special. So I don't have to walk literally in your shoes to be able to understand what it's like to be in your shoes. That's where emotional intelligence comes into play at. And I think that the example that Malik used was really proper in terms of what's the difference between you calling a trans woman a man and her internal experience of that, and you calling me a pedophile or a rapist, and my experience of being identified as something that I know that I'm not. And in that way, I can understand what it must be like to be trans, to walk around and know your truth and have other people not honor that truth and see your truth the way that you know your truth to be. And I don't understand what was difficult to comprehend about that. I mean, and, we get into the same tip when it comes to gay, to the gay and the race issue. Oh, it's not the same. You can't compare sexuality. We're not comparing it in the literal sense. We're comparing it in the figurative sense. That I am just as absolute in my orientation as I am in my ethnicity. And yes, you can't see one, but you can see the other. But also, are you saying that I should keep my mouth closed about who I am so that I can be treated fairly in the world? Well, that's not being treated fairly at all if I got to keep my mouth closed about who I am.
Exactly.
That's not fair treatment at all, then. What you are doing is actually enabling bigotry. You're enabling homophobes. You're enabling abusers because you're putting the burden of surviving in the world on those who are in the world rather than those who have the power to shape the world, who should make the world available to everybody else who's in the world, not the other way around. So go ahead.
But here's my thing that kind of really irritates me. I feel like if there's any group of people, I feel like I said this before in my previous videos, but if there's anybody or any group of people that should have a level of empathy and that should know what it's like to be discriminated against, day in and day out, even to this day, should be us as black people. But if we're going to sit here and talk about the whole comparison thing or whatever, if we're going to do that, okay, then we can.
Because nobody gonna know that you gay. Nobody gotta know that you gay. That I ain't got no choice but to be black.
But there are some people out there who, unfortunately, I don't say unfortunately because it's not an unfortunate thing, but there are people out there who are not able to hide their sexuality.
But that's still a choice. That's still a choice. Nobody would know that you gay unless you said you gay. No, I'm going to be identified as black whether I'm in a coat, a hat, under an umbrella, a trench coat, a bodysuit.
Okay, so
I'm black and everybody.
If it's not a problem with me being black before you find out my sexuality, then why is it when my sexuality is discovered or asked about, then it changed the whole situation? Because my thing is, a lot of you motherfuckers find me cute and attractive any goddamn way, so you're probably going to try to figure out what's going on anyway. So it's going to come out eventually. So, but why is it that when I say who I am and I speak my truth, see, I'm not on the down low. I'm not here lying to you. I'm not out here doing all this other fucking fake ass, false ass shit. I'm telling you the truth up front. So it seems like you just don't want homosexuality to be a part of the African diaspora or the African experience. But guess what? I hate to break it to you. LGBTQIA+ individuals of color has been here since the beginning of time until the end of time and will be here in between time. In the meantime. And my thing is this, how can y'all say, y'all don't want to deal with anything gay, but y'all know everything about being gay? So explain that to me. How do you know about being gay and everything that's wrong about being gay, but your ass have never sat here and really had a conversation with a gay person? And when you do have conversations with gay people, it's always gay people who fall in line with the negative stereotypes that you believe. And a lot of times, them motherfuckers who be following that shit still be gay. So please help me understand this. But you about to say something? Go ahead, Davyon.
I was just going to say that, okay, here's a compromise. Look.
Bitch, where my blunt at? Go ahead.
Nobody has to know that I'm gay. I'm willing to live in that world. If you are willing to be black and not fight for your right to worship Christ openly, because nobody got to know that you're a Christian either. So let's all just stick to being black and just black and black only.
That's why he's my spiritual teacher, y'all.
Perfect compromise.
Perfect. I agree with that. I'm
willing to go back into hiding as long as you're willing to go back into hiding.
Well, that's what the demons do. You know they demonic. See, the devils be over there deflected and stuff. See, the enemy know the words. I see. Nope. How about the fact that there are just some people who are just fucking gay? But see, that's the problem, because it's like now we got to figure out who are the quote-unquote the good gays. Now you got to actually get to know a motherfucker. And to be honest, and this might be, and I hope this is not problematic, and I hope people don't take this in a problematic way, and if I'm totally problematic, I'll just shit the fuck out. But here's the thing, though. I low-key feel that the shit that a lot of these men are talking about in reference to trans women, I honestly feel like that's low-key part of their karma. Part of karma. Because here's my thing. A lot of you hoe-ass niggas that's really destroying the black community, you know, out here speaking sweet nothings into these women's ears and telling them that you love them and you care about them and you fuck them and smash without a goddamn condom and give them your children, and then when you find out that they are pregnant and then saying that you're the daddy, oh, no, I'm not. So now you on some baby mama bullshit. And you have all these goddamn baby mamas, the real motherfuckers that are destroying the goddamn community. Now you got to actually get to know a motherfucker now. Now you actually got to get to know a person first before you can fucking smash. So maybe this is y'all goddamn karma. Now, I hope that wasn't problematic what I said.
Well, you know, I think it'll take a whole other video to unpack the spiritual purpose of gay people in the earth, because I can just give a whole university course on that. I can give a whole dissertation on that all by itself. But I'll just say this, and maybe we can do to be continued on that particular note there, that heterosexuals, y'all are the reason why there are gay people in the world. So there's a metaphysical reason to why heterosexual people keep giving birth to queer people, and it's not just because of them literally giving birth and bringing queer people into the world, but culture, societies have always been off. We've always been off track in terms of feminine and masculine consciousness. We've either been patriarchal or matriarchal, which is like the complete polar opposites of the spectrum. Very rare have we been a oneness culture or a oneness society. Even in America, you know, we live under a patriarchy, even though our culture is very matriarchal, which is very interesting. But as long as societies and communities are off balance and go from one extreme to the other, or are toxic, where there's toxic masculinity, which is wounded masculinity, dominant masculinity, ignorant masculinity, controlling masculinity, abusive masculinity, or whether it is toxic, wounded femininity, where you have victimization, over emotionalism, codependency, neediness, where you have like this abusive internal reality, or you have this abusive external reality, which is represented within the masculine feminine, then you're going to produce and naturally give way to queer people. Queer people, unique people, two-spirited people. I mean, look these things up historically. Look up how queer people, how two-spirited people were revered in Native American cultures and African cultures. And we're talking about pre-colonialism, not after the white man had evaded Africa, but we're talking about pre-colonialism. That's before Christopher Columbus and the Mayflower ever sat down. That's before any ghostly European ever landed on the shores of Africa. How these cultures had very hyper spiritual and metaphysical perspectives and philosophies around two-spirited people, to the point where in certain African tribes, two-spirited people and same-sex, same-gender-loving unions were acknowledged a lot of times as being more spiritual than heterosexual unions. So a lot of that has bled out, especially in the Western world, as a result of Christianity, as a result of dogma and religion, etc. And even those ideas, biblically speaking, are also misunderstood and taken out of context. I did a whole study on homosexuality alone in the Bible in terms of the 5 to several verses that refer to that, when I kind of went at Kim Buckle Burrell, and you know, I kind of gave her the business. I kind of went into a little bit of a teaching about that. So, you know, as long as we're off balance, and I remember what's the guy named Let's Serve had a little thing on his channel where a elderly black man, he was walking behind two gay men, and they were like holding hands. It looked like they were in Times Square or some metropolitan city, and the black man was saying how, you know, we don't allow this in Africa. This has no place in Africa, and you know, and he was just going on and on and on and on. And I found that to be very interesting, because all of the people who don't love queer people give birth to queer people. I find it interesting that homophobes are giving birth to LGBT people, and so what I want to tell, you know, black elitists, black supremacists, is even if you barricaded Africa completely off and you kept all of the documented queer and trans people in the world completely outside of those walls, even if those walls were from here to the moon, covered by a firmament or some type of a stone ceiling, that it would not matter how much you try to keep gay people out, because queer people come from within.
Okay.
So you would give birth directly within the walls of Africa. So if heterosexual people want to, quote unquote, queer up or cure up the gay issue, then we're going to need men to honor, respect, and align themselves divinely with the feminine, which in our world is represented as woman. And we're going to need women to honor and revere and align themselves divinely to the masculine, which in our world is represented as the male. And it won't be until this wholeness that you're going to see probably, and it's weird to say, but you probably want to see a decline in the birth of queer people, because two-spirited people are just the gatekeepers of masculine and feminine consciousness. We're the gatekeepers. We dwell within the intermediary space. That's what the trans thing is all about. That's what the lesbian woman is all about. That's what the queer man is all about. You have a queer man who is in alignment with his femininity, and you have a queer woman who is in alignment with her divine masculinity. And you have the same experience for trans people who are merged. They're merged between the two. They're meshed perfectly between the two. That's when you get into the non-binary, the gender fluidity, and all these things are just symbols of spiritual processes and spiritual truths that are calling out to man to be reconnected. This is what marriage symbolically means in the Bible, when the Bible says that when a man and a woman come together, they become one in spirit. It's talking about the metaphysical union and relationship to the divine feminine and the divine masculine. They have their independent functions, but they complete each other the way that day and night complete a 24-hour period. They are independent and yet in relationship and union to one another. And when we all get in touch with ourselves and become whole within that, men open up themselves to their sensitivities and their empathy and their compassion, because our cultures are missing it as we socialize men and socialize women. And because we're socializing the two, we are two categorizing of men and women, from colors to toys to clothes that are assigned to one gender and vice versa. Instead of teaching people to be souls rather than genders. I'm a soul. I'm an expression of that which is my soul. God is both male and female. That's why God created them both in its own image, in its own likeness. I have made them male and female. The tetragrammaton, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, both have masculine and feminine vowels that create the name of God. We don't deal with this level of mysticism in terms of our philosophies around gender. We get very literal, we get very beta, we get very ignorant about these things, partially because religion reduces us down to that. But then I'll say not really, because if you really are adept to the scriptures don't say what's being taught. The scriptures are speaking mysticism. The scriptures are speaking metaphysics, but the scriptures are being taught by beta thinking people. So the word ends up becoming elementary, and it ends up remaining in that elementary state instead of growing, because the scriptures, as you grow in your spirituality, this is what Christ meant when he says, cast your net out to the deep, to the depth of God. When Jesus is telling Peter, you can't catch the fish on the left side of the boat, cast your net, Peter, to the right side of the boat. He's telling Peter to access the right hemisphere of his brain. You cannot get done what you're trying to get done through the pattern perpetuated through the left hemisphere, the left dimension of your soul. Access the right dimension, and you will see something unique take place. All these things are metaphysical hints. This is why Jesus, Nostradamus, prophets were always known to speak in parables, because this was a way of identifying, one, people who had a spiritual proclivity, because if you're spiritually inclined, you can catch the symbolism, you can catch the illustrations. But also, this was a way of trying to hide divine truths from those who are wicked and would access those divine principles and weaponize them against the world, which is why we have wickedness now residing in high places, because wickedness are accessing divine principles, and people get into this whole thing of good and evil. And I know we kind of get, we getting off track here. Just putting it on. That's just on a whole other thing. We'll do a whole nother.
Got a rabbit hole. Okay.
Yeah, we going down a rabbit hole. We gonna forget who Malik Yoba is. So, bringing it back on up, I'm just handing the ball to you, but we'll have a whole separate conversation and get into all that.
Okay.
But I kind of just ran down the gamut of, talking about sexuality in the Western culture, talking about transgenderism in the Western culture, how we're very dogmatic and very religious about these matters, and these things have their spiritual place, whether people like it or not. It just is what it is. I mean, even Jesus said there are some men who are born that way, some men who choose to be that way, and some men who are made that way. And let whomever amongst you ignorant motherfuckers who ain't that ignorant except what I'm saying here today, because somebody here must understand. Somebody here, I'm willing to roll the dice at least once that somebody here understands and can receive what I'm saying here today. So, these things were understood very differently. As Americans, we think we are the world. We think that our ideas are the ideas of the entire globe, or it's the flat earth, as some, want to call it. And I encourage people to be studied, be cultured. Americans need to see the world, because it's something that traveling does, and being exposed to other cultures just due to your intellectual capacity. It even does something very special to your spirituality in terms of the expansion of your mind, the expansion of consciousness. So I just really encourage people to stop being so simple-minded, stop being so surface about these issues. We have no justification to be killing people simply because of who they choose to love, who they want to love. I think the arguments are really stupid. I've debated people like Davyon OUT Israel. I've debated Hotep niggas. And it's just at the end of the day, people are, trying to argue the legitimacy of transgenderism and or sexual orientation, whether people are choosing it or whether people are naturally that way. What does it matter in a free country, whether I'm a natural born gay person or I'm choosing to experiment? I mean, bitches bust it open for other bitches all the time and don't have to worry about the stigma of being bisexual. So we know that we're being selective, and we're being selective because we live in a patriarchy, and under that patriarchy, masculinity is a symbol of power, and therefore men have the burden of definitely aligning with that symbol of power and authority, which is why men have such an issue when they see a effeminate male, because it's such an insult, because what man would not want to be in power, and masculinity represents power. This is also why studs and lesbians have it easier in our culture. They don't nearly go through the same level and extremity statistically as it relates to homophobia as gay men do. Because why? That's a compliment to the culture. Anything that is assimilating to masculinity is on the right side of the tracks. So we will accept and dap up the stud, the butch. We would dap her up. She's one of the boys. She's a good wingman for us at the bar. I mean, we completely indulge and accept her because she's on the right side, because being a man is considered the right side of the fence in America. And this is why we abuse women, we abandon women, we mute women, we don't care about women, and we dispose of women, because the only thing that matters under a patriarchy are men, and that's reflected in how we treat women. So I love Malik Yoba. I think we need to protect him. I think that we need to be careful about the way that we're going to deal with Malik Yoba, because Malik Yoba is trying to open up the opportunity for the same men who y'all all are tired of beating on y'all, slapping on y'all, being on the down low, cheating on y'all. You're having to hire Marquise Rivers to see if your nigga is really with the cooch, really if he really wants some dick. I mean, and to avoid all of this, just live and create a culture where people can be open about who they are, and therefore you can choose the truth and not choose a lie, not choose deception. We can choose the truth, because we live in a culture that welcomes people, and you ain't got to agree, but we need to allow people to live in their truth so that we all know who we standing next to, who we going to the altar with, who we laying down with, and there can be no confusion, because the down low community is the direct side effect of homophobia. It just is. Homophobia produced the down low community.
Exactly.
What other reason would anybody have to be on the down low if it wasn't for fear of social humiliation, social persecution? We too old for this as a country now. It's literally time to grow out of this. It's time to grow out of all of this. It's silly, it's redundant, it's rhetorical, and that's BubzDaGawd to say, bitch, we here, we queer, we here to stay. And there's nothing you can do about that, but move the fuck out of our way and continue to employ us to help you look beautiful so you can keep the big, big, wealthy man that you are hoping to put a ring on your finger. And to you niggas, the more of us that want each other, the more women it is for you to play with. So
exactly.
Everybody is getting what they need out of the deal. I'm not sure why this can't be a part in this bitch. So those are my sentiments.
They want some hateration, holleration in the damn church. That's what it is. So before we go, there's a few questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
Like I said, we appreciate. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for coming on to my platform and out of your busy schedule. Because if y'all don't know what this nigga has been doing these past few weeks, this nigga has been ripping and running out here doing the motherfucking thing. Y'all go check him out, ConsciouzTv. I'm leaving the link down below. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, I love this man. He's absolutely amazing. That's why I was shutting the fuck up and let him speak. He's the goddamn truth. The question I want to ask is this. Look, the few questions I want to ask are these. Knowing the situation that happened with Malik Yoba and everything like that, we understand that they're going to be. We saw a very, very big inflation in reference to toxic hypermasculinity with the Judge Joe Brown situation, with other individuals giving their commentary and stuff like that. What do you think that we as LGBTQIA people should continue to do in order to ensure our safety and to protect ourselves with what's going on? Like how the climate is starting to get hotter.
Really good question. I think for one, queer people should only waste their time communicating with those who actually want to communicate, not those who want to come in with their proclamations about sexuality and gender identity. Personally, I'm disinterested at this point with debating people. I have no time to spend communicating to a made-up mind. If you wanna have a meeting of the minds, I'm completely down for that. So I would encourage queer people to not waste their time trying to educate the deaf and the dumb and the lame. And I also, at this point, would encourage queer people to just arm yourselves. Arm yourselves. Arm yourselves. Arm yourselves. Don't waste your words, and don't waste a good hairstyle having to wrestle a nigga to the ground. Just start sending these niggas to their maker. I mean, since they claim God didn't make us, then let's give them an invitation to go talk to their maker. Like, you can go talk to your maker directly and ask him now, who is responsible for me? You can thank me later, for sending you back home. So I think that queer people, we have to not end up an endangered species. And if we continue to be a little bit too naive in this world, we're not going to be we're not going to shield ourselves accordingly. And there was a video that was released a month or two ago where you had two queer men in Atlanta, I believe it was somewhere. They were just sitting out in the open mind of their business by a water fountain, and a gang of straight guys willingly came over to them and made them move just because they didn't want gay people in the public space. And, you know, had that been me, well,
we'll just use the sound that a lot of these hood ass niggas know when they shoot each other, but when they're gonna start hearing from the gays soon, bow, 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 and bow. Along with that shit too, it's a Grand Theft Auto cheat code.
M16 assault rifle tees, yes, God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that queer people, yeah, protect yourself. Trans women definitely protect y'all.
Yes,
Now, I ain't talking about me, bitch. It's time to get a license to carry and to carry what you got a license to have on you. May think when these niggas shooting at you from 6 feet away, may think gonna help you, okay? When these niggas driving by in a car, with their hand on the trigger, mace, a knife, a bat, a club is not going to help you. You need to protect yourself with a projectile, and there's no better projectile than a piece of steel. So I just encourage, I as a queer man, I believe in the goodness of people. I want to live in a free world. I go nowhere intending to fight, but bitch, I am always prepared and able-bodied to defend myself against anyone and their friends. So yeah, we have to think about our safety. Your first priority as a human being in all species practices, which is self-preservation first. Preserve yourself. So continue to educate those who want to be educated, support those who are trying to support you, and yeah, don't start no shit, but finish everything.
Okay.
Don't start
Okay.
nothing, but finish everything.
Come on, fatality. Two more questions. The second question is this: for individuals who are like Malik Yoba, who are trans attracting and who still identify as heterosexual, who really, really want to come up but are afraid to, what are your words of encouragement, or what do you have to say to individuals like Malik Yoba who are afraid to walk in their truth?
Your fear is understandable, but your authenticity and truth is honorable. And this is what we need in this world, not even just in terms of sexuality, but we just need people who are willing to stand up on principle and stand up on the right thing. And look to men like Malik Yoba, who has been able to be trans attracted and also be afforded a great life, and understand that when people hate, when people judge, people are wrestling with themselves. They're just using you as a catalyst to have a confrontation with themselves. All of that bullshit is not even remotely about you. It's not about Malik. It's not about any other openly queer person or any activists in the community supporting trans or LGBT people. These bullies, these trolls, these religions, these are just people who are in fear. They have no other frame of reference. They've been taught in error, but just know that you're not alone, and that there is a community that is here to protect you and to protect your truth. And just stand on principle. Just be somebody who stands on principle. We have definitely got to just come up out of this idea of conformity, because that's how we're losing our integrity as a people, because we're buying into conformity. We're buying into, we're way too invested in what other people think of us. Social media has made that a bit harder, because I just also saw a post of I believe he's a young white boy. He was outed for being bisexual by his classmates, and he killed himself as a result of being outed. I out of order and out of line for you to come out for somebody, but also don't let anybody talk you out of your truth. It's yours. You came in it. You came into this world with that truth. You leave out of this world with that truth. And I just think we have to think about what type of young people are we raising and giving birth to, and are we wanting the generations coming up behind us to perpetuate being on the down low, living double lives, being dualistic, or do we want to see a world where people are free, people are living in their truth, whether that comes with persecution or not? And if we do believe in that kind of a world, then every last single person who believes that has to also walk in that, because we can only bring about that world by becoming those iconic figures themselves. So you have to walk in your truth. I have to walk in my truth. And the more confrontation we have because of that truth, the closer we get to that freedom, because you can't have justice without confrontation, and you can't have confrontation that doesn't eventually lead to justice. So there's no way of getting around, the banter that comes with the homophobic group, the anti-gay group, and the pro group. That's going to happen, but that's also a part of the healing. That confrontation is a part of the course, and we can't be intimidated by that. We can't be afraid to deal with these things out in the open. So just don't be afraid. There's a large community of people who are living in their truth. Stick to people who are like you, that will reaffirm you daily. People, are living their best lives all across the spectrum, and just be celebratory of yourself. It is not your job to live in a way that makes somebody else comfortable. Be self-serving in that way, and be encouraged, and look out into this beautiful world where you have the T.S. Madisons, and you have the RuPauls, and you have all these prolific, iconic people who have been able to stand in their truth and prosper in this life as a result of that self-love. I think, when we all talk about our personal happiness and we all talk about living a prosperous life, oftentimes we look to that as to, okay, what do I have to do in life to get there? The only thing you have to honestly do is energetically line up with your own soul. You got to free yourself in order to have the universe be made freely to you. So we are better service to the world when we are all walking in who we believe ourselves to be and know ourselves to be. And God will always give you all the resources that you need when you are aligned in love with yourself, not with apprehension, not with trepidation, not with fear, not with insecurity, but when you are aligned perfectly, because perfect love casts out darkness. So be encouraged. All are called, few are chosen. It's definitely not an easy road, but this world wasn't designed to be easy, which is why the heroes are so noteworthy. They're so noteworthy. So, don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to stand out, and don't be afraid to defend those who can't defend themselves. I mean, you gotta stand for something, or you're gonna fall for anything. So,
I believe you just answered my third question, so I'm not even gonna ask that. You pretty much covered the whole situation. So, yeah, that's what happens when you flow in the spirit for real. But I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Thank y'all for taking the time out to comment. Please share. Please subscribe. And I want to say thank you so much to Davyon, a.k.a. ConsciouzTv, once again, link down below. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy-ass schedule to sit down with me and to have a conversation.
Even though I am out here literally snatching up hoes' cheap-ass lace fronts, I always enjoy talking to you, engaging with you. You're such a great conversationalist, and I'm so excited for your channel. I can't wait to promote your channel in my community feed and tell my subscribers to come over here and check this interview out. They always love you when you come on to my platform as well. And I'm excited about where you're going. I can't wait till you complete that ego death documentation, because I really enjoyed part 1, because girl, your haircut was looking like what you was going through. So I'm looking. Yeah, so we need to see the makeover, baby. There's a whole transformation that happened over the course of 9 months. So, but congratulations on everything, and thank you. And I can't wait to hopefully do another one. Really, really, really.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say, y'all gonna have to get used to Davyon here on this channel, because of course I want to be able to start collaborating with him more, having more conversations. Yeah. And if any of you guys out there have anything that you would love for Davyon and I to talk about from an LGBTQIA plus spiritual, metaphysical,
or just metaphysics and spirituality,
whatever you want to do, we can have that conversation. I'm still a spiritual teacher in training, so of course I'm still learning under this amazing ass individual, and he's blessed my life, so therefore I want to turn around.
Don't trust no Christian, don't trust no heterosexual.
All right, but once again, thank y'all so much for taking the time out to watch and to listen. And until next time, everybody, peace and love. I will talk to y'all soon. 007. My bad, I said 007 out. Oh, that old nigga started coming back in. Oh, no. BubzDaGawd out.
Stay out some drugs, kids.
All right, bye-bye, y'all.